Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boy, does it smell good.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
That's good.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, this is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2, Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Rouse, is officially inching closer and closer to the weekend. Fired up, you're hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Chris Blair, 15 minutes from now from Manhattan, Kansas. LSU and Kansas State tonight at 8 o'clock on the hardwood. But LSU in Florida in the Swamp, 2:30 Central Time on Saturday. And we got our first availability report of the week last night. A couple of notable listings there on the LSU side. Garrett Dellinger listed as out. Not shocking. Had the ankle sprain against Texas A&M, had the tightrope surgery immediately after. This will be 3 weeks since the tightrope surgery, just not quite ready to go. So you would imagine Paul Mabenga will step in and play left guard for LSU. However, you did see a new name with a different designation on the injury report yesterday, and that was Tyree Adams as questionable. Tyree Adams had that fluke sports hernia thing in pregame against UCLA, and we haven't seen him since. I will be honest, and I didn't go back and look at this. When I thought he was out for the year, apparently, but maybe that's not the case if he's listed as questionable. What I know is that Tyree Adams was the sixth offensive lineman for sure. If Will Campbell were to go down, Adams was going to go in. If Emory Jones went down, Adams was going to go in. If Garrett Dellinger went down, Adams was going to go in. If Miles Frazier went down, Adams was going to go in. If the center, DJ Chester, went down, you were going to see very likely Dellinger kick down to center and Adams go in at guard. So he was going to play any spot on the offensive line except center and was going to be the next man up for any offensive line injury as LSU ended camp and got into the season. And obviously he had that freak pregame thing, and it's kept him away from practice. Maybe he's available this week. I'm going to proceed as if Paul Mabenga is going to be the left guard, but I would now open the door that Tyree Adams could be that guy. I would very much imagine that Brian Kelly will be asked about this tonight at his meet availability, and we'll maybe get a little bit more clarity on that. But LSU's offensive line will be without Garrett Dellinger. That much we know. Here's what else we know. That LSU has not run the ball well against good teams. And I hear from people all the time. I did a radio spot in Lake Charles earlier today, and you have conversations, and the narrative is, well, LSU can't run the ball. Can't run it. Can't run the ball. And that's not completely true. They run the ball on mediocre teams, on lesser teams. They ran the ball fine on Arkansas. They ran the ball fine on UCLA. They ran the ball fine for the most part against South Carolina, who's got a good defense. They did not run it on USC. They did not run it on Ole Miss. They did not run it on Bama. They did not run it on A&M. But Florida is not any of those teams. They're not even South Carolina. Let me give you some of the rushing statistics that Florida has allowed. Miami was one of the teams they played. Miami ran for 144 yards on 33 carries. A&M ran the ball 55 times on Florida for 310 yards. Mississippi State, not exactly the Pony Express on the ground, ran it 56 times for 240 yards on Florida. Tennessee ran it for $143. Kentucky ran it for $144. Georgia ran it for $146. Texas last week ran for 219 yards. Florida gives up a lot of yards on the ground. And I would feel better about LSU's ability to attack that if Garrett Dellinger were playing. I would feel better about LSU's ability to attack that if Caden Durham got 50 of the 70 snaps instead of 20 of the 70 snaps last week. But we'll see. It's a new game. And I'm comfortable suggesting that LSU is going to make one hell of an effort to try to run the ball. You've got a quarterback that is very much in a slump. You've got a quarterback whose confidence is very much shaken. You've got a defense on the other side that has gotten gashed and gashed and gashed. you've got to try to run the ball. And I can hear y'all out there listening to me and going, they can't run the ball. They suck. They're weak. Strength and conditioning coach is terrible. Brad Davis, overrated. They can't run the ball. Hadn't been able to run the ball for 2 years. I hear you. They didn't run it great last week. They did not run it in Texas A&M. I got you. But those fronts have pros on them. Those fronts have second, third round picks. Florida's not that. If Kentucky, who has the worst passing offense in the SEC, can run it on them, if Mississippi State, who is going to throw up a bagel in league play this year, can run it on them, doesn't it stand to reason that LSU can at least try? Doesn't it stand to reason that LSU could run the ball 35 times for 165 yards on Saturday? I would suggest it does. I didn't say they would. I said it suggested they could. And they will absolutely try. And if LSU does run the ball and controls the clock like that, everybody can exhale in purple and gold. Garrett Nussmeier can exhale. Joe Sloan, the play caller, can exhale. The defense, quite literally, can exhale while they sit on the sideline and you run the ball. LSU's been at its best offensively this year when they have controlled the clock with a little bit of a running game and a very efficient short passing game. That's been the recipe. And I don't think that's going to change. I think LSU is going to try that again. And I just reject the notion, they can't do it. Can't do it. I think they can. And I think there's a possibility, this is not a likelihood, it's a possibility, that they can break Florida's will a little bit, especially if a third string quarterback's out there for the Gators. Because if they can start running a little bit, Florida's top two corners are out, LSU's wide receivers will get to work, and they'll be open, and I think Nussmeier will hit them, and I think LSU's offense has a chance to look very efficient in this game. Keep in mind, with or without DJ Lagway on offense, Texas against the Florida defense scored 35 points in the first half. A lot of folks suggesting, well, Texas hadn't played anybody. They're not that good. Well, if that's true, they still got up 35-0 on Florida. You can't mimic that in a way with a veteran quarterback, some good receivers, and an explosive running back. I would like to see that for LSU, and I think there's a real chance they can get that done. If they can't, you're going to get in trouble, as you have. If you do have to throw it 53 times, that's trouble. Too many opportunities for pass rush, too many opportunities for interceptions, too much pressure on the quarterback. But run it like Texas did for 219. Run it like Mississippi State did for 240. Run it like A&M did for 310. Miami 144, Kentucky 144. That's got to be the goal for LSU on Saturday in the Swamp. Those numbers have nothing to do with LSU. Have everything to do with Florida. They have nothing to do with LSU against A&M. They have nothing to do with LSU's strength and conditioning program. They have everything to do with the fact that Florida has not been able to stand up to rushing attacks. We'll see if that continues coming up on Saturday. When we come back, Chris Blair, Manhattan, Kansas in the Octagon of Doom. We'll talk some LSU Kansas State basketball as well as LSU Florida football. You're listening to a Thursday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. Every single Genesis at Genesis of Baton Rouge comes with a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, plus 3 years of complimentary maintenance, oil changes, wiper blades, air filters, things like that, complimentary. And it's complimentary even if it's valet. We're in a delivery world. People want delivery. They don't want to go somewhere to do things. They want things brought to them. All right. Genesis Baton Rouge will play a game. They'll take a car to you. They'll take your car back to the service aisle. They'll handle the maintenance. They'll bring it right back. You always have a car if you need to run errands or make things happen. And then they'll bring it right back to you free of charge. That's part of the experience of being a Genesis driver. Genesis Baton Rouge, been here on Airline and PQ just a little over a year and a half. Go on by and see them. Tell them the Hunt Palmer Show sent you. Say, I'd like to get behind the wheel of one of these Genesis Baton Rouge. See what all the fuss is about. I promise you, you will not regret it. It's a fine, fine line of vehicles. Wonderful people to work with. State-of-the-art facility. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. Check them out online, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Chugging right along here on a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Every Thursday, the Brian Kelly Show from TJ Ribs. Gordy Rush in with the head coach, Brian Kelly, this week. Not because Chris Blair's taking the day off, because Chris Blair's in the Little Apple, Manhattan, Kansas, for LSU and Kansas State tonight from the Octagon of Doom. He joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Chris, how's the Little Apple these days?
Well, it's nice. I tell you what, it's going to be pretty wild. Talking to some people yesterday when we got here, they haven't had a home football game in like 3 weeks. Had 2 on the road, then a bye week. And so last night, the town was extremely quiet. Nobody was out. We went to dinner. They closed early. And everybody kept saying that's because they're starting today. Thursday, they're kicking off the weekend, and the students are saving up to go Thursday through early Sunday morning. So should be a wild one inside Bramlage later tonight as they start their K-State weekend.
Kids can't go Wednesday to Saturday. Clearly not an SEC team, Kansas State. That's weak stuff. Get out there on the town on a Wednesday night. I'm excited to watch the game tonight. I'm sure it's going to be a packed house, and it's LSU's first real test against the Power 5. Through 2 games, what have you liked about this LSU basketball team?
I like their defense, and I like the way they're committed to playing defense. Doesn't mean they're perfect. Doesn't mean they've got shut down potential. Yet to be seen, obviously, as the talent they face to get better, and that starts tonight. But I mean, there's a commitment to play defense, and you've heard it, Hunt. I mean, guys, when they practice, when you're coming up, what do you practice in the backyard or in the garage? You practice shooting, you practice offense. So you got to want to play defense, and I like the fact that, especially the backcourt, these guys are dedicated to be really good on the ball defenders. So I think that will get them, as the offense and the gelling of this team gets a little better. I think the fact that they're committed to playing defense is going to help them early on. So, again, they'll get a big test tonight. Both of these teams, they look a lot alike, especially evenly. And when you look at statistics, you look at where they are in the net rankings, when you look at KenPom, I mean, there's a lot of similarities. And hopefully tonight it's going to help that Cam Carter is very familiar with the Octagon of Doom. And can prepare the guys for what kind of environment they'll play in. But I like this team. I really do. I mean, you can take missing shots and not shooting the ball well, which we've seen in the first 2 games of the season. But you really can't hang a lot on their defense. They've made teams really have to make tough shots.
And I think you mentioned the environment. It'll be a really good one tonight there in Manhattan. And LSU's really old on the perimeter. Sears and Carter and Bailey are your starters who have played a lot of college basketball. I would imagine you expect that they'll handle the environment okay tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I mean, because, again, you talk about the number of minutes they have in Division I basketball. They obviously have been in these type of environments before, and they're going to be in a lot more come SEC time. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle it. As I told you to start, they're expecting it to be a wild atmosphere. Coach Jerome Tang in his 3rd season, he's done pretty well there. He's 31-4 inside that building. So it's going to be a challenge. But again, I'm interested to see how they handle it, especially if they have some adversity early, because obviously they did against Alabama State, a team that came out ready to play and found themselves by 6, and then found themselves by double digits almost midway through the second half. And, the connectivity for this team with as many new pieces has been pretty impressive through the first 2 games. And they'll have to rely on that tonight to be sure.
Well, let's transition over to the football side of things. The offense, the turnovers, that's got to be weighing, I would imagine, on Garrett just a little bit. How important would a nice running game be for him on Saturday?
Well, it's going to be important. I mean, I think you and I talked about it last week. I mean, you're going into game 9 of the season, you kind of are who you are. And unfortunately, that's who they were last Saturday. Outside of one run by Caden Durham on the first play of scrimmage that they couldn't cash in for a touchdown, that's about all she wrote for the night. And, I think Garrett Nussmeier, again, the quarterback's always going to get all the credit, and he's always going to get too much of the blame. But I think you're now looking as teams get deeper. I think a couple of factors: the inability to run the football and make anybody respect that you might either pull as the quarterback or have some success running the ball as running backs, makes a one-dimensional offense against really good teams, against really good coaching staffs that now have 8-9 weeks of game film to see what you do well and what you don't do well. Suddenly the quarterback now is in a position where we can't run the ball. Teams are being able to cheat in coverage. They got guys covered up. I'm running for my life because pressure's breathing down my neck, and I got to make a play. And we've seen some back-footed throws. We've seen some rush throws to the wrong side of the field or guys that he didn't see open, moving the pocket or banding the pocket when you didn't need to. And again, I just think that's Garrett trying to make some plays because, again, there's a lot of pressure on him. When you can't run the football, you got to throw the ball. And again, when you're throwing the ball 40, 45, 50, 51 times, as the old coach told me years ago, you put the ball in the air, 3 things happen, 2 of them ain't good. And, that's kind of where LSU's been over the last 6 quarters of football.
Whenever I start talking about this football team, I try to bring myself back to where I was at the beginning of the third quarter in College Station. Imagining where we're sitting now, it's hard to even put it all together. Are you more surprised with the offense kind of bogging down for 6 quarters or the defense just getting gashed for 6 quarters?
Yeah, I think it's the offense. And again, I just laid out moments ago why I think it's getting harder and harder without the running game. But still, you get deceived a little bit, Hunt, when you watch the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season and you're like, you know what? They just can't stop the passing attack. There's too many options, too many weapons. Suddenly here we are over the last 6 quarters where they have taken those weapons away and the offense has gotten a little on shaky ground. And, to me, Saturday's important because it's a Florida team that, frankly, their coach got a vote of confidence, playing with house money. It's LSU in Florida, and while the divisions are gone, it's still a very heated rivalry. Again, you get all the press that came out earlier in the week that there is a way, and not a too far off the mark way, that LSU could end up in Atlanta. I mean, from a motivation standpoint, I'm interested to see who wants it more. And I think we'll, probably figure that out very early in the game on Saturday because I think Florida would love to play spoiler. And I think for LSU, it's like, how do we get back on track? And if we're only a one-style offense, how do we out-scheme the other team who has seen 9 weeks, virtually 10 weeks of what we do on offense?
I'm curious. My opinion, and this is my opinion, I'm not a doctor, and I certainly haven't talked to DJ Lagway. My opinion is that Lagway is the linchpin of the entire football program at this point. He's 2 weeks off being carted off for a hamstring injury. I just don't think he's running 20 times if he even plays on Saturday. So if you take that element away, and it's either him not running a ton or they go to a third-string quarterback, how much more confidence does that give you in LSU's defense?
Well, I think it does. I mean, when I look back at the game films from the last 2 games, I mean, granted, there were some abysmal play defensively, and I'm not excusing it, but there also were some tough spots they were put into. I go back to the Alabama game. I look down at the end of the first quarter, and it just hits me, wow, we really didn't have the football a whole lot.
Nope.
I don't remember the numbers, but it was something like 11 to like a little under 5 minutes.
Yeah, it was 11 to 4.
And I'm thinking, okay, the defense has been out there quite a bit. And again, that's part of it sometimes. And then you go later in the game, really in the third quarter, you start to see just some kind of head-scratching missed tackles and out of position and some of the things we saw, week 1, week 2. But I think you're talking about 2 different styles of offense for Florida, depending on who goes behind center on Saturday. And to your point, even if it is Lagway, how much can he do on a bum hamstring, 80%, 70%, even 90%? Because you're at the risk of a season that's already in the tank if you're Florida. And you've got a freshman quarterback who certainly has the potential, I think, to be a great player in the SEC. And you're really, over the next 3 weeks, going to put him in there with a questionable hamstring. So I don't know how much of it is gamemanship, about he might play, and how much of it is real. But, again, if Lagway's in there, in theory, okay, now you've got to deal with another running dual-threat quarterback, which, again, LSU has struggled with, not all season, but the last 2 games. If they go to the backup quarterback, it's more of a pro style. He's going to drop back and try to throw. And if that's the case, I think LSU's defense has the opportunity to really get a get-back game and get right this Saturday. But we'll wait and see.
The narrative entering that South Carolina game prior to them beating Kentucky was like, yeah, they may not be great, but that fan base just shows up no matter what. I would not put Florida in that category. What kind of environment are you expecting in the Swamp for a 500 team that's got a coach that I don't know that everybody really believes in down there in blue and orange?
I'll be honest with you, Hon, and this is, my love for Gainesville.
Yeah, I do.
And the University of Florida. But it has been stunning to me, and I said this to Jacob last week. The last time I was at the Swamp, when it was even a shell of what the Swamp as, was 2018. I mean, and that horrible offensive game LSU had where they threw the pick late. But that's the last time you went into the place, and they started the great new tradition of Tom Petty and all that stuff. That was the last time I saw the Swamp actually be a factor when LSU has played there. I don't think it's going to be back to 2018 Saturday. I mean, the hardcore is going to be there. We'll get the Gator Chomps on the way in with the bus, but I don't think it's going to be the raucous atmosphere. And again, LSU, much like they did in Bryan College Station with 130 million people, was able to get the crowd somewhat out of it early in the first half. They just weren't able to finish. They opened the door, they let it get back, and suddenly it steamrolled. I don't think you're going to have that issue on Saturday. I know the Swamp is the Swamp, but I don't think that's going to affect gameplay. And I also think LSU's got to find a way offensively, whether it is 138 million in the stadium or 65,000. You've got to be able to make that decision, get to the line, maybe one check at the line, and then you got to go.
Yeah.
Because we saw some false starts and close to delay of games and early timeouts burned at home on Saturday. That just shouldn't happen.
John Brady and Chris Blair, they'll be not courtside. I just saw the picture. They'll be up in the rafters of the Octagon of Doom, but they'll have your broadcast call tonight for LSU and Kansas State. And then Chris will be headed to Gainesville for the Saturday kickoff. Chris, thanks for the time. Travel safe.
You got it. Thought I was back in the Southern Conference. Little doubleheader action at the Bramlage tonight. So, yeah, we got moved to the rafters, but we'll make it.
All good. Thanks, Chris. He is Chris Blair, the voice of the Tigers. I don't have enough confidence to tell you where to listen to that game in Baton Rouge because I know that we've got the coaches show, the Brian Kelly show, and the basketball game. One's on Eagle, one's going to be on Talk, but I don't know which one, so I can't tell you. But they're both going on tonight, so if you just check Eagle 98.1 and Talk 107.3, you'll find them. We come back, we'll talk with Luke Johnson on the New Orleans Saints as they get ready for the Cleveland Browns. That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services, boudreauxelectrical.com is the website. Love telling you about my friends at Boudreaux's Electrical because they can provide you with the peace of mind of knowing that you're not going to lose power when those storms come through. Whether it's one of the afternoon storms in the summer that just knocks the power out in 10 minutes and it's just a nuisance, or it's a hurricane that could leave you without power for a week. If that's the case and you don't have a Boudreaux's Electrical Generac generator, make the call. 985-397-1562. That's 985-397-1562 or 225-300-9389. That's the Gonzales location. Wherever you are in our listening area, Boudreaux's Electrical can come help you out. It can be a commercial job, it can be a residential job, but if you need the peace of mind of knowing that you're not going to lose power when the power goes out because that generator is going to kick on and power you up, call the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical or check them out online, boudreauxelectrical.com. Every single Generac home standby generator that Boudreaux's Electrical sells you comes with a 7 to 10 year warranty based on the type of generator that you buy. 7 to 10 years, you've got that peace of mind. It's Boudreaux's Electrical. Check them out, boudreauxelectrical.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show presented by Rouse's, official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Looking to get your Thanksgiving supplies, no better spot than the folks over at Rouse's. Locations all throughout South Louisiana, all the way over to Gulf Shores, Alabama. Rouse's, this feels like home. Let's talk some Saints. Luke Johnson covers the Saints for The Advocate with us every single Thursday. You can find him on Twitter at @ByLukeJohnson or right here on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Luke, how we doing?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me on.
It is our pleasure to have you on. Eric McCoy looks like he is trending towards returning. What would that mean for the New Orleans Saints offense?
I mean, he's just such a huge part of what they do. Look, it's kind of hard to quantify like the value of a center. It's not like an obvious offensive line position, kind of like the offensive tackle. It doesn't really show up in these really clear ways, but I mean, you could just look at what they did offensively when he was in the lineup versus what they've done offensively without him in the lineup to see how important he is. I'm not saying they're going to go back out and start scoring 45 points a game like they were in the first 2 weeks, but the fact that he's just a very good player, and B, he's like the very clear leader of that room. Guys follow him, pay attention to him. The stuff he does. It's going to be a huge boost having him back in the lineup. There's no doubt about that.
Let's go from a perceived weakness of the Saints with that offensive line at times and go to a perceived strength entering the season. That's, of course, the secondary. Now you have Paulson Adebo out for the year. Marshawn Lattimore plays for somebody else. Time now for Kool-Aid McKinstry, who practiced yesterday, as well as Alontae Taylor, to move out to the outside. Do you feel like that's likely the future of the organization at corner?
I think so. I don't know what's going to happen with Paulson Adebo. I think he was on his way toward kind of playing his way out of being in New Orleans, just he was going to be too expensive for him. They had replacements kind of in-house. Who knows what's going to happen now that he broke his leg? It might be in his best interest to come back at like kind of a discounted price. But I still think that you're looking at McKinstry is the undoubted future of the secondary. And I think for Alontae Taylor, just out of necessity, being forced to play on the outside, I think that's probably his best position. So he could be like kind of a future star there. And I've really liked what I've seen out of Kool-Aid McKinstry and just kind of limited opportunities for him. So it's going to be really kind of fun to see how these guys match up with teams on the stretch. They face some pretty good passing attacks in these last several weeks. I'm looking forward to seeing it because I think they have an opportunity to be a really good unit with those guys.
If I'm a DB, I don't know if there's any quarterback I'd rather play against in the league than Jameis Winston. He's typically pretty generous. He was last week with 3 interceptions. How do you think that the Saints corners, these two, match up on the outside with Cleveland, and can they make some plays against Jameis in that passing attack?
Well, I think if there's one thing the secondary's done well this year, it's make plays on the ball. Obviously, like Paulson Adebo is a big part of that. Marshawn Lattimore didn't make any picks, but he's kind of traditionally been a big part of that. But still, they're going to have opportunities. Tyrann Mathieu was joking about it yesterday. He was like going to tell Jameis he's looking forward to him throwing a couple balls his way. This is just what he is. It's what he does. He's an aggressive quarterback who tries to make throws that other guys don't want to make. Sometimes that looks incredible, and sometimes it looks like it did last week. And I think the Saints secondary has really throughout the last couple of years has capitalized on opposing quarterbacks making mistakes with football. So I mean, we'll see. Like Jameis could come out and throw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. It would surprise nobody. Jameis could come out and throw for 204 picks, and it would surprise nobody. It's just he's super volatile as a quarterback. Just kind of got to see which player we're going to see.
Let's go back to the Saints offensive side of the ball. I'm talking about young players here. And Tala Fuanga is going to be looking at one of the best players in the National Football League, and Myles Garrett, for a lot of the game on Sunday. How do you see that matchup?
I really like Tali Fuaga. I think he's had a pretty good rookie season, but he's kind of hit a little bit of a wall here in the back half of the year. We've seen him struggle more against true speed rusher guys, which is not exactly what Myles Garrett is. But I mean, Myles Garrett is he can do anything.
Yeah.
That would be a concern for me, and they're going to have a plan for how to help Fuaga out there. So I just don't think you want him on an island against the best pass rusher in the NFL. There's no doubt in my mind about that. Trey Hendrickson's leading the league in sacks. I was just looking this up today. I'm pretty sure Myles Garrett is leading the league in pressures. And he can beat you in any number of ways. So they're going to have to give him help out there. That's for absolute sure.
All right, give me a vibe check on the team in the locker room in the last few days. I know there was a big breath of fresh air last week. Is that kind of continued? Is that just something you can count on for a week? What's your sense of how the team feels right now with this new leadership?
Just being honest, it's been a little bit different than last week. Last week you could feel it, right? I went into last week thinking the Saints had a chance to beat Atlanta, and I would not have picked them in any other of the previous weeks. But you could feel the vibes take a turn last week, and maybe it's just because I'm basing it off of what last week was, which felt so different. It hasn't quite been the same this week, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. At the end of the day, there's still a 3-7 football team who's got a lot of stuff to figure out. I still think it's positive around here, but it's not just the for lack of a better term, the free captive term that last week felt like. So I don't know, man. We'll see. But the Browns are also really struggling right now, and this could just be this is a team that, yes, they're 3-7. The Browns are 2-7, but this is a team they should beat, and they got to focus on business this week.
When it comes to guys on the outside, MVS made a couple plays in the game on Sunday, but it's just a cast of characters out there for sure. Who can they lean on?
I don't think they can really lean on anybody in this receiver core. It's the fact of the matter. MVS does some really nice things, but this, who he was last week is kind of who he's been throughout his career. He's somebody who can give you instant offense, big play, but he's not somebody you're going to give 10 targets a game. And go to on 3rd and 7 when you need to move the chains. I think they just have to be, the assembly of parts. It'll help this week. They're getting Cedric Wilson back probably. He's a veteran guy. He's got a lot of work with Derek Carr this off season and training camp and the beginning part of the season. I think that helps. I actually really liked what I saw out of Kevin Austin last week. Kind of limited opportunities. He only had 2 targets, but made a really, really nice sideline catch. Another big catch on their only scoring drive of the second half. And he's a big guy who can move. I'm interested to see what else he can do, and I'm kind of thinking we'll see him again on the active roster this week, even though he's still on the practice squad. So they've got some decent pieces, but I don't think there's anybody there that they can truly lean on as their number one right now.
Is there a realistic chance that Darren Rizzi or Clint Kubiak could be the next coach of the Saints?
I think there is. I think there's a decent chance that Rizzi is at least part of the conversation. I would be surprised if Kubiak is part of the conversation for head coach this year. But Rizzi, I think, depending on how this last stretch of the season goes, I think could be in line for it. But you got to also think that maybe this is an organization that wants to just completely turn the page from the Peyton era. It hired one of Peyton's old assistants the last time out. It didn't work out well. Maybe they are just ready for something completely new. I don't think that's something we can discount. So Rizzi, yes, I do think that he's going to at least be given an opportunity to interview for the job. We'll see how these last couple of weeks go. I would be surprised with Kubiak, though.
Are any of the Saints being asked to go play for the Pelicans?
Look, I've seen these guys play ball in the locker room on the small hoop they have. I don't think they want to do that, but it might be desperation time for the Pels. It might be another 2 months before I can will myself to go to another Pels game. So,
well, will yourself to the Superdome on Sunday. We'll talk next week. Thanks, man.
Sounds good, man. Thanks.
Luke Johnson by Luke Johnson's got a great piece up at The Advocate right now about Tyrann Mathieu. Go check that out. And the Saints have got a good chance to win again on Sunday because the Browns are not very good. But I think there are some things to watch in this game, even outside of the actual results. I know that when you get up on Sunday, you're thinking, all right, are the Saints going to win today? But if you're talking about the future of the organization, how does Taliesin Fuanga handle himself on Sunday? That's a big deal. How does Alontae Taylor and Kool-Aid McKinstry look as a duo at corner against a guy who will turn the ball over? That's worth taking a look at. Am I super interested with how Derek Carr plays on Sunday? I don't know if I could go that far. Am I super concerned with the development of Alvin Kamara and the Clint Kubiak offense? Probably not. But I think there are some things that you could look at towards the future of the organization that are worth a look on a Sunday, in addition to whether or not the Saints win. And I'm not, certainly, don't misunderstand. I'm not telling you that caring about whether the Saints win or not is stupid. That is not the point I'm trying to make. I'm just kind of analyzing the roster and kind of the direction of the franchise, because that's what you're forced to do when you trade your best defensive player and then your head coach is gone. Like, what do we got here that we can work with? Fuaga appears to be that. Let's see. And then what does that new corner duo look like? Because you got one that plays for another team now and one that's got a broken leg and may not be back. So it's kind of where my head is with Saints and Browns. We'll talk a little bit more about it tomorrow as we get ready for Saints and Browns noon on Sunday from the Dome. All right, when we come back, we'll close it out. It's Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Jonathan Carbo and his team at Highland Insurance Group want to hear from you. If your only relationship with your insurance broker as a business owner is, call me 2 weeks before the renewal, I come over, I say it's expensive, sign, and then I see him the next year. Maybe you ought to call Highland Insurance Group, because you ought to be able to trust your insurance broker, and they ought to feel like part of your team. Your attorney feels like part of your team. Your CPA feels like part of your team. Your insurance broker should feel like part of your team. Their job is to help protect you when something goes haywire. And you can't always predict when that's going to happen. But if you're not protected and it happens, it could be a massive blow to your business. You shouldn't be concerned with that all the time. You should be concerned with running your business. But you should trust your insurance broker to know that when that car accident happens, when that hurricane blows through, that your property limits are correct and your deductible's right, and that your cyber insurance limits and coverages are correct, and that you don't have exclusions that may cost you a lot of money down the road. I was in this game for 7 years. I know how it works, and I know Jonathan Carbo and his team are fantastic at what they do. So if you don't have a great relationship with your insurance broker and you're looking to get that, the Highland Insurance Group can absolutely help you with it. It's highlandig.com. It's the Highland Insurance Group. You can find them online at highlandig.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Tomorrow, Football Friday here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. You ought to know the drill by now, but I'll help you out if you don't. Start at the same time as we do every Friday at 7 to 10 on Off the Bench. Jake and T-Bob will be right here in the Mercedes-Benz Baton Rouge studio. We'll be finishing up at 10 o'clock. And at 10, go to Rufino's for Live at Lunch. It'll be Charles Hannegriff, Richard Dixon, Jimmy Ott, and their whole cast of Friday characters from 10 to 1 for Live at Lunch. I'm 1 to 3 here on the Hunt Palmer Show. AFR from 3 to 6. And then when Matt's done, 6 o'clock, Louisiana Prep Preview Playoffs cranking up around the state. Kate will get you ready for that. Catholic high football.
No Catholic. They have a bye. Because the top 6 seeds in all the select schools get a bye week. Well, they're the 1 or 2, but it's really dumb. But yeah, they have a bye.
It's so dumb.
Yes.
It's so stupid.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me that a bunch of people can get into a room and determine this. But
yes.
I it's not my issue. I don't have a kid in high school. I'm not in high school. They can do whatever they want.
The Flyers, though, Hunt, that they're in.
The Flyers, they're generally not a strong outfit.
They're a 10 seed this year, so they had a pretty good season comparably and for their standard.
My senior year, we were 2-8. I didn't play. We were 2-8, and it was Katrina year.
Yep.
And the 2 got us in as the 32 seed, which was the final seed in the 2A. So we were sent to John Curtis Christian School.
Oh, no.
I sprained my ankle in the basketball jamboree that Tuesday, so I couldn't go. My foot was in a bucket of ice. It was the same weekend Jamarcus hit Dwayne Bowe in the end zone for a touchdown against Alabama. But I couldn't go down and see my buddies play. But they played against John Curtis. They had a fellow by the name of Joe McKnight.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
On the team.
He was pretty good.
Joe that day had 3 carries in the ball game. He had 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So that's a strong work. He did not play after that. I am told, although I can't verify this story because I wasn't there, I'm told that our kicker was so nervous for the opening kickoff that he shanked the ball so poorly that it barely went 10 yards and Loyola recovered as a
onside,
as
on
a
accident.
Non-surprise accidental onside kick.
That's impressive.
But I think that was the last positive play for the Flyers that day.
Yeah.
So I'll be pulling for the Flyers, whoever they got tomorrow. Apologies if that's someone in the listening area. That's my alma mater. Sorry.
They're playing New Orleans team, I think. So
okay, well that doesn't sound good.
No.
I could just throw a dart at any New Orleans team and they're probably better than Loyola. But we'll see. Pulling for the Flyers. Hopefully they get it done coming up on Friday night. But we'll have no Catholic high football tomorrow, but we will have Louisiana Prep Scoreboard board after all the games go final. So if you want to get caught up on all the scores around the state, Kate will have you covered tomorrow night starting at 10 o'clock. So that's your Football Friday live and local from basically 7 a.m. to midnight tomorrow on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Let's play Take It or Leave It.
All right, first one here. The Tampa Bay Rays will reportedly play at Steinbrenner Field, the Yankees' Tampa spring training facility next year. Take it or leave it.
I mean, I don't know what their options are, so I'll take it. It's okay in theory because they don't draw more than 11,000 anyway, and Tropicana got destroyed by the hurricane, so they don't have an option of playing there. But there's a real problem with that.
Yes.
Are you on my page here?
Yeah.
We got real weather problems in Tampa in the summer.
Yeah.
I went to Streamsong to play golf, which is between Tampa and Orlando. We got pulled off the golf course 4 times in 3 days. So, there's just rain all the time. There's lightning all the time. There's a reason they're the Tampa Bay Lightning, the hockey team. So, they're in for a long summer of weather delays there at Steinbrenner Field.
All right, next one here. Jalen Rose went viral a couple nights ago. He was at a Miami Heat game, and Coach Eric Spoelstra tried to call a timeout. There were no timeouts remaining.
Technical foul.
And they showed a video of Rose after it happened, just completely just flabbergasted. You could tell he just had the PTSD from the Final Four with Michigan. PTSD, take it or leave it.
I mean, I'll leave it on that one. I don't know if there was quite as much at stake for the Heat in this November showdown, but I understand that Jalen may not be wild about watching that highlight 9,000 times over the course of his life. I wish I was around for the 5-5. I was too young to take that all in. But I did watch the documentary, thought it was really good, even though they took a little bit out, and it was by those guys' point of view. But it was interesting to hear the thoughts on Duke. And then the I Hate Christian Laettner doc that came out later, and Christian Laettner was like, I was undefeated against Michigan. But it's, I get it. Jalen doesn't want to see that. I understand.
All right, next one here, the Jamie versus Chief Classic. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. I'm going to be out the box tomorrow. For those that have no idea what that means, that is Jamie Tutko, LSU's director of video and player development over there. And then Chief, Mark Wanaka, who coaches first base and does their defensive alignment. They'll be coaching the boys this weekend starting tomorrow at 4:30. I'm going to get to see a little bit of that one, and then I'm going to hope to see some on Sunday as well, so I can put something up on LouisianaSports.net and maybe talk about it a little bit on the show next week. So, I'll be out there tomorrow. Looking forward to watching a little bit of fall baseball. Again, if you're wanting to go out there and check them out, you can tomorrow at 4:30 at the box. Admission is completely free.
All right, last one here. The Pelicans unveiled their new City Edition uniforms.
I saw them.
Uniforms are take it or leave it.
I mean, what do you think?
I think you're going to leave it.
Neon green.
No, they're purple.
Well, they got neon glow in the dark.
They do have neon green on them.
I will say this. I looked at the responses on Twitter to the drop of the uniforms. Everybody loved them.
Yeah, so people like them.
It blows my mind that you could like something that looks that stupid and has none of the team colors in it. That really blows my mind. But people love them.
Nobody cares about that anymore. Unfortunately for you, nobody cares about the team colors anymore. They just care if it looks cool.
Well, define cool.
I think the design. Look, I'm with you. I think that the Pelicans should have colors that are representative of the team.
Of the team colors.
And, yes, they should have those. But we just have to. I'm accepted. I've accepted the fact that this is going to happen.
Okay. Have you accepted the Cubs navy pants?
No, I can't do that. No, I can't do that. But I've accepted the NBA is going to have 8 uniforms every year. They're going to change the uniforms every single season.
And the courts are going to look ridiculous.
The courts are going to have glow in the dark black light on them. So that I've just accepted it and I'm okay with it. And at least if they're going to do this, at least make the uniforms look pretty cool. I don't hate these. I think they're better than the ones last year because they were just black and green last year. At least this has purple and gold in it.
Who wrote that country song, You've Got to Stand for Something or You'll Fall for Anything? I don't know who said it, but I have to stand for something. I have to stand for teams wearing their team colors when they play sports. If I can't stand for that, what do I have? You got nothing left. There's nothing left after that.
That's true.
So that's it for take it or leave it. How about this? For the Pelicans to wear those god-awful uniforms, they need to win a game.
Yeah, maybe
win a game. You
need to win
one game just between now and June, and you can put those uniforms on.
Yeah.
That's my take on that. All right. That's it for a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We're brought to you by Rouse's Markets. I opened the show today talking about Bryce Underwood. I think it's not a story. I understand why On3 is doing it, but if you want to hear my full thoughts on Bryce Underwood, you can do so at YouTube Hunt on LSU. LSU's football team is responding pretty well emotionally to the loss on Saturday. I talked to 3 of them over the weekend. We played some sound for you at 1:15. We had talked to LSU Kansas State at 1:30. They'll tip that off at 8 o'clock tonight. Best win and worst loss at the end of the hour. Chris Blair was with us at 2:15. Luke Johnson at 2:30. You can find that at Hunt on Saints on YouTube. LSU and K-State tonight at 8 o'clock. Hopefully the Tigers can get it done. We'll talk about that tomorrow, plus a whole football Friday full of pigskin. Hope you have a great Thursday. Even Matt's going to drive you home on AFR. I'm at LeBear's tonight. Hope to see you then. If not, same time, same place tomorrow.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com. They can do whole home audio. They can do television installation, video surveillance. Anything you need electronically, basically, Mitchell Fisher and his team can do for you at Audio Video Security Solutions. If you are building a home or thinking about building a home, listen up. The best time to make that call to your audio video service is before you start the build, so that they can go in during the build and do everything quite simply, so that by the time you move in, it's all up and running. If you're building a home, putting a great home entertainment system in there, Mitchell Fisher and his team are happy to do it at Audio Video Security Solutions. This is Mitchell's cell phone number. You start the process with him. It's 225-439-7920. Again, that's 225-439-7920. Give him a call. Tell him that's what you're interested in. He can get that process started for you. As always, you can find him online, avssla.com, Audio Video Security Solutions.